When we're younger, we believe we can take care of ourselves forever. But at some point, the idea of a nursing home starts to feel like a real option. Have you ever thought about moving into one? Maybe you see it as a safe choice, a place where you'll have all the care you need. That's exactly what I thought too. But after experiencing it firsthand, I realized that life in a nursing home isn't as simple as it seems. There are things I wish someone had told me before I moved in, things that could have helped me make a better decision. So today, I'm sharing 6 important lessons that I learned the hard way. And stay until the end, because I'll also share alternative options that can help you maintain your independence for as long as possible. Let's get started. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought the hardest part would be adjusting to a smaller room, scheduled meals, or unfamiliar faces. But I was wrong. The biggest shock was realizing that I had lost control over my own life. Before moving in, I was in charge. I decided when to wake up, what to eat, when to go for a walk, and how to spend my day. I had the freedom to make choices, both big and small. But after moving in, everything changed. Meals were served at set times, whether I was hungry or not. Lights were turned off at a scheduled hour, whether I was ready for bed or not. Even something as simple as going outside required permission and waiting until someone was available to assist me. The most difficult part? Realizing that what used to be basic choices had now become privileges. I remember my first week in the nursing home. I woke up one morning and instinctively reached for my favorite book, just as I had done every day at home. But when I looked around the unfamiliar room, I felt a sinking realization. This wasn't my home anymore. My books, my favorite chair, my little comforts, all gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I didn't choose, and a routine I didn't set. At first, I resisted. I told myself I wouldn't let these changes define me. But over time, I adapted, because I had no choice. You learn to fit into their system. You stop asking if you can go for a walk whenever you want. You stop arguing when they tell you what's for dinner. And in the process, you slowly start losing yourself. Are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life truly yours? Because once they're gone, you might miss them more than you ever imagined. If this concerns you, comment number 1 below. Losing my independence was hard, but I never expected how painful it would be to feel forgotten. When I first moved into the nursing home, my family promised to visit often. And at first, they did. My daughter came once a week. My grandchildren stopped by on weekends, and for a little while, I still felt connected to my old life. But as the weeks passed, things started to change. The visits became less frequent. My daughter, who used to come in person, started calling instead. My grandchildren got busy with school, jobs, and their own lives. I tried to be understanding. I told myself, they're just busy. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was slowly fading from their world. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come. I would sit by the window, waiting to hear footsteps in the hallway. But at the last minute, plans always seemed to change. One Thanksgiving, I set my hopes high. My son had promised to visit. I sat in the common room, watching the clock. Hours passed. No one came. I told myself it was fine. I didn't want to be a burden. So I went back to my room, picked up the phone, and thought about calling him. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over his name. But then a thought hit me. What if he's too busy? What if I'm disturbing him? What if he feels guilty for not coming? And so, I put the phone down. That was the moment I realized. This was my life now. Watching days go by, hoping someone would remember me. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just moved on without me. And when you're not there every day, It's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you don't need as much attention. Are you ready to face loneliness when you are no longer part of your family's daily life? If this makes you think, comment number 2 below. At first, I thought losing my independence and feeling forgotten were the hardest parts of living in a nursing home. But over time, I realized something just as painful: losing my sense of purpose. Before moving in, my days had meaning. I had my little routines: watering the plants in the morning, cooking my own meals, fixing things around the house. Even the smallest tasks made me feel useful, like I was still contributing to my own life. But here, there was nothing to do. I didn't need to cook because meals were prepared for me. I didn't need to clean because the staff took care of it. I didn't need to fix anything because, well, there was nothing here that belonged to me. At first, I told myself to enjoy the break. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just time to relax. But after a few weeks, the reality sank in. I wasn't resting. I was waiting. I saw it in others, too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting in the common room, staring out the window, waiting for meals, waiting for bedtime, waiting for something, anything, to make the hours go by. There was a man named George, 84 years old. Before moving in, he had been a carpenter. His hands were always busy, always creating. But here there were no tools, no projects, nothing to build. Over time, I watched as his strong, skilled hands grew still. One day he looked at me and said, "I feel useless." And I knew exactly what he meant. When you have no role, no responsibility, no reason to get up in the morning, life starts to feel empty. Your mind slows down, your body follows, and soon you become just another resident, watching time pass, but never really living. If one day you had nothing to do, no goals to work toward, would life still feel meaningful? If this thought worries you, comment number 3 below. Losing my independence was hard. Feeling forgotten was painful. Losing my sense of purpose made every day feel empty. But I never expected how quickly my body would weaken once I moved into a nursing home. Before I came here, I was still active. I took daily walks, cooked my own meals, and cleaned my home. I wasn't running marathons, but I was moving, and that kept me strong. But in the nursing home, everything changed. Meals were brought to me. The cleaning was done for me. If I needed something, all I had to do was press a button. At first, it seemed convenient, until I realized how little I was actually moving. I stopped standing as much. I stopped walking as far. And before I knew it, my legs felt weaker. One day, I went to get up from a chair and felt my knees shake. I had to grab the armrest for support. That had never happened before. I told myself it was just a bad day. But then, it kept happening. Walking became harder. My muscles felt stiffer. Getting up took more effort than it should have, and I wasn't the only one. I watched the same thing happen to others. People who had walked in on their own 2 feet were now using canes, then walkers, then wheelchairs. There was a woman named Alice. When she first arrived, she told me, "I'm not going to let this place slow me down." She walked every day. But as time passed, she started skipping her walks. She got comfortable with having everything done for her. One day, she told me, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." And that's exactly what it felt like. Do you think you'll have the motivation to stay active when everything around you is designed to make life effortless? If this concerns you, comment number 4 below. Losing my strength was difficult, but losing my privacy and dignity was even harder. At home, I had my own space. If I wanted to sit in silence, I could. If I wanted to close my bedroom door, I did. I had control over when and how I did things. But in the nursing home, privacy is a luxury you no longer have. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff members came in and out for check-ins, sometimes knocking, sometimes not. Every action, eating, dressing, even using the bathroom, was monitored or assisted. At first I told myself it was just part of the routine, but over time I realized how much of my independence was being taken away. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. Even the simple act of choosing what to eat became restricted. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, too bad. Then there was the issue of sharing a room with a stranger. I was lucky. I had a kind and quiet roommate, but others weren't as fortunate. Some people had roommates who were loud, unclean, or had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. No matter how much I tried to make my room feel like home, it never truly felt like mine. Dignity is a hard thing to lose, and I never realized how much of mine I would have to surrender. When you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by someone else, you start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. Are you ready to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? If not, comment number 5 below. At first, I thought moving into a nursing home was a decision I could reverse at any time. If I didn't like it, I could just leave and go back home. But reality hit me harder than I expected. Getting out wasn't as simple as I thought. At first, I didn't worry. My house was still there, waiting for me. I told myself this was just temporary, just a way to make life easier for a while. But over time, things changed. The house that once felt like my home was no longer mine. It sat empty, difficult to maintain from a distance. My family thought I wouldn't need it anymore, so they started making changes, selling furniture, donating things, even considering renting or selling the house altogether. And then there was my health. At home, I could still take care of myself, cook my meals, move around freely, handle my daily routine. But in the nursing home, I did less and less for myself. And without even realizing it, I got weaker. When I first arrived, I walked in on my own 2 feet. Months later, I needed a cane, then a walker. Getting up from a chair started to feel like a challenge. By the time I thought about leaving, I was no longer as independent as I'd been when I arrived. And suddenly, the idea of going back home didn't feel as simple as before. I wasn't as strong. I wasn't as confident in my ability to live alone. And that fear, that kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they'd try it out for a little while, only to realize leaving wasn't as easy as they had hoped. Some people even lost the option completely. Their home was sold, their savings drained by the cost of care, and going back was no longer possible. Reflection question: are you sure you could return to your old life if you moved in? If this makes you hesitate, comment number 6 below. After hearing about the challenges of nursing home life, you might be wondering, is there a better way? The good news is yes. There are alternatives that allow you to maintain independence while still receiving the care you need. Hiring in-home care. If you need assistance but want to stay in your own home, hiring a caregiver can be a great option. They can help with daily tasks like cooking, cleaning, and transportation while allowing you to stay in a familiar environment. Living with family while keeping your independence. Some seniors choose to live with their children or other family members, but set clear boundaries to maintain personal space and autonomy. A separate living area, like a guest house or an in-law suite, can provide both support and privacy. Joining an independent senior living community. Unlike nursing homes, these communities offer social activities, fitness programs, and a support network without taking away your freedom. You still have your own space, but help is available when needed. I know a woman named Margaret, who is 90 years old. She lives with her daughter, but instead of relying on family for everything, she hires a caregiver to assist her when needed. This way, she enjoys both independence and support. She once told me, "I never wanted to move into a nursing home. I still want to decide how I live my life." And she does. Which alternative would you choose? Let me know in the comments. Moving into a nursing home isn't always the wrong choice, but it's a decision that should never be made lightly. Many people believe that a nursing home will provide security, care, and a better quality of life. But as you've seen, it can also come with unexpected sacrifices, loss of independence, loneliness, declining health, lack of privacy, and difficulty leaving. That's why it's important to consider all options before making a decision. Have you explored alternatives like in-home care, living with family, or independent senior communities? If not, take the time to think about what's truly best for you. Which regret resonated with you the most? Comment the number below. By sharing your thoughts, you may help others who are facing the same decision. And if you found this video helpful, share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Because sometimes, the right information at the right time can change everything. Whatever choice you make sure it's one that allows you to live with dignity, purpose, and the independence you deserve.